Hey everyone, just a few quick things before we get started. Don't forget to sign the attendance sheet. It's just real simple. Just ask you 2 questions. Kind of looks like this. But that's pretty much it. Please enjoy. Hope you all learned something.
Okay, hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to be going over mathematical operations. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to stop by my office hours. They're up here. Let's get started. Okay, so the first question I have is list and explain the mathematical operators. So we'll start off basic. The plus sign. We'll do parentheses. Used for addition, right? It just works like normal addition. If you add a variable that's equal to 2 and add a variable that's equal to 3, you're going to get 5. We also have subtraction, and this is used for subtraction, pretty normal stuff. Then we got multiplication, which is the star, which is also just used for multiplication. And then we got the backslash, which is used for division. Alright, pretty normal so far, except you can see we have one extra, and so that's going to be the percent sign, or as we call it, the modulus. Call it modulus. And this is going to be used for finding the remainder. So remember when you were in first or second grade and you were dividing 8 by 5 and you're like, oh, you get 1 with a remainder of 3, and you wrote the little r at the top. Well, I don't know if any of y'all did that, but I did. So basically what this modulus is going to return is it's going to return, so if you had 8 mod 5, whereas division would give you 1 point something, 1.6 maybe, if you had a double. Modulus would give you 3, because 8 divided by 5 is 1, and if you subtract 5 from 8, you get 3 left over. So essentially, it gives you the leftovers, okay? Whatever would go into a decimal form, but not the actual points, because those aren't actually the leftovers. Okay, and we'll see it when I use it in person later on. Next question is, in what order does the computer execute mathematical operations? So this one's just going to be order of operations. So remember in math class, when in the 8th grade or whatever, when you were learning about it, PEMDAS, I believe, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And of course, with division comes modulus. So you can kind of consider modulus like division in that sense. So modulus is going to come between those. So I guess you could do PEMDAS, but then modulus, in the middle of it. I guess you could just add another M if you wanted, but Alright, so my next question is, how do you have exponents in C++, and how do you use this function? So you cannot just do a caret sign, right? You can't do 2 raised to the 3rd power. It won't recognize that. You have to use a special function called pow. And so if you do pow x comma y, okay, semicolon. So pow is how you're going to figure out figure out x to the y power. So whatever your base is going to be your first variable, and whatever your exponent is going to be your second variable. Okay, and so that's how you are able to have exponents. So the next question is, what are some other good mathematical functions to know? Alright, so some other good mathematical functions to know. We got absolute, right? To take the absolute value of a number. It's just ABS, open parentheses, close parentheses. Then we got square root. So it's going to be SQRT, open and close parentheses. We also have all your trigonometry functions, right? So sine, cosine, tangent, and last but not least, we have rand, R-A-N-D. This is going to generate a random number, and depending on what constraints you give it, but it can generate a random number, and this may or may not be useful for you, but just in case, it's always good to know. Alright, the next thing I have is what should you include when including these what should you include when using these mathematical functions? And so if anything's a hint here, it's going to be this include, cough cough. Alright, so we're going to do hashtag include, and then this library name is called CMath. So this library is going to allow you to have all those mathematical functions. And by mathematical functions, I mean POW, absolute, square root, the trig, and the random. So you don't need this CMath, you don't need it for mathematical operators, but you do need it for these mathematical functions right here. Okay, so just remember, use CMath with mathematical functions, string with strings, and IOmanip with output formatting. And of course, you're always going to want your IO stream in every single program. Next, we have what are the combined assignment operators. So these are going to be a little more interesting. So I'll give you an example for the first one, and then you should be kind of able to figure out how to use the others. So the first one I'm going to give you is plus equals. And so what this means is, let's say we were using x plus equals 3. So it's going to translate to x is equal to x plus 3. So it's just shorthand, but it makes it a lot easier sometimes. So it's just meaning that the variable that you're setting is going to just be increased by 3 things, in a sense, or whatever other number you have on the other side. And so, if you were thinking about it now and you had to guess what the other ones were, you could probably guess it'd be minus equals, which would be something along the lines of like x minus equals 3 translates to x is equal to x minus 3. And then you also have multiply equals, divided equals, and we even have mod equals. Right? And so I'll just put these here, but for the most principle, it's going to be, they all mean the same thing. It's just a shorthand way of writing x is equal to, or whatever variable is equal to whatever you have on the other side, in a sense. But let me just fix this for y'all. Oh, and something I did forget to mention, but I do want to stress. So if I go back up here, this star used for multiplication, you cannot use, I misspelled cannot use, you cannot use parentheses for multiplication. And so I'll show you an example down here. So even in the PIM and the order of operations, you can't have something like y parentheses x plus 3. Let's say you were setting this equal to z. Okay, so it actually looks like code. And then, of course, a semicolon at the end, right? So this would not work. You would get an error. So if you have a y and then open parentheses, you have to put a multiplication sign for it to know what you mean. It doesn't know that a variable next to a parentheses means that you need to multiply. Okay. So next up I have some code. I'm going to open up Online GDB. Okay, so I have Online GDB opened up and I have the code next to us. Of course, I have my include IOStream. As you can see, I forgot my using namespace though, so I will type that out right now. Okay. Everything else is looking good though, so let's get started. The first thing it wants us to do is ask the user for two numbers. Simple enough. Of course, we're going to need to create variables for these. We'll just call it num1 and num2. And so if you're declaring like a bunch of integers like this, you can separate them with commas to declare them all at once. And the same thing with like doubles and stuff. Okay, so the next one, we're still asking the user for these numbers. So let's just see out a statement, enter two numbers. I don't know why I put a semicolon in there. My bad. Okay, and then we can do cin. Remember, point the arrows towards the variables. Num1 and num2. And this is also valid having cin statements like this. The first number will be entered into here, and the second number will be entered into here. And it's going to be, you can either hit enter and do it one by one, or you can just leave a space between them and run it, and it'll enter it in sequentially. Okay, so the next one is to use the POW function to output the first number raised to the second number. So the first thing I see is POW function, which means we need to include a library. So include cmath. And so now we can go down and we'll just see out number1 raised to the power of number 2 is, and so what we'll do here to avoid creating a new variable and wasting memory is we'll just type POW within our cout statement. And so if we want to raise 1 to the power of the second number, right, we got to put the 1 first and the second one second. Alright? Oops, getting kind of short here. Let me scooch it over. How do I... There we go. Okay, and so this is legal, and it's not going to print out this statement. It's going to print out the result. Just like if you had a variable here, it wouldn't print out variable num1. It would print out whatever it's equal to. Okay? So the next statement is find the area of a triangle with two numbers. So I'm going to go down here. The area of a triangle is going to be equal to 1/2 base times height, right? So if we go down here, we can type area of triangle. I cannot spell today, I apologize. With base and height of your two numbers is, and we'll do the same thing like we did earlier, except now it's going to be more, it's going to be a little bit more of a math thing than just that. So obviously we want to start with multiplying the base times the height. Well, because it's multiplication and division, so it doesn't really matter what number you do it in. But we're going to start by multiplying num1 times num2, and then we can divide it by 2, and then do the inline. Alright, here, that gives us a little more room. Okay, and so the important thing to remember with this is, in this case it doesn't matter because it's all multiplication and division, but let's say it was like this, num1 plus num2, then you need parentheses around it to specify that you want to divide 2 again after you take the sum of those two numbers. Or if you had a more complicated denominator, like I don't know, 2 times pi, but you, like, I don't know, like 2 times like a third variable, right? If you have like a variable named z, you also need to specify if the numerator and denominator are being grouped together, because essentially it's like your calculator, right? When you type in an equation on your calculator, you have to group the numerator and denominator together to make sure it knows to divide the numerator by the entire numerator by the entire denominator. So just treat it like you were typing it in on a calculator, because that's what it is. Computer is a calculator. Alright, so that should return the area. Let's see what the next thing is. The next thing says set the first number equal to the 2 numbers added. Okay, so we can do, and then output the results. So we'll do num1 is, so there's 2 ways we could do this, right? We could do is equal to num1 plus num2, but hey, doesn't that look really familiar to something I was doing earlier? Yeah, right? Look, it's right here. So we can just short this. We can shorten this up by doing num1 plus equals num2. And then we can do cout. We'll do sum is, just because it's the sum. And we can just do num1 now instead of having to create a new variable. Alright, and so let's test this out. Alright, so we're going to try to want to get 2 easy numbers just so we can kind of know what's happening. So we'll just do 2 and 3. So you can either do 2 into 3 into, or you could have separated them with a space. So let's see. Num1 raised to the power of num2 is 8. So 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. You see, I forgot to put a space there, so I should have put a space here. So there you go, for next time. And says the area of a triangle with base and height of your 2 numbers is 3. So that would make sense, right? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1 times 3 is 3. Right? And then the sum is 5, and that's true. This is all true, and you can write it with bigger numbers if you want. Say you want to do 17 and 5. And so you can see that that exponential got pretty big pretty fast. The area is 42 and the sum is 22. So you can see it kind of works out. And so you can see here, just remember about the division, and this is very useful. It just makes it shorter and neater. Yeah, so that's all I have to show you in this video. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by my office hours, but thank you all for watching.
Thank you all for making it all the way through this video. Here's a little way of saying thank you.